You know the feeling. You sit down at your desk, ready to tackle a big project. You stare at the blank screen, your hands hover over the keyboard, and your chest tightens. A sudden, overwhelming urge washes over you to abandon it all and reorganize your spice rack. When we do this, society is quick to hand us a diagnosis. We tell ourselves we lack discipline. We assume we're apathetic. We decide that we're simply lazy. Because we believe the problem is a lack of focus, we try to solve it with productivity tools. We buy $50 leather planners, download aggressive scheduling apps, and attempt to map out every hour of our day. This logistical approach assumes the hurdle is just bad planning. But when you sit in front of a perfect schedule and still feel paralyzed, it reveals that the clock isn't the root of the problem. Psychologists who study human behavior have reached a definitive consensus. Procrastination is a failure of emotional regulation. Your brain looks at a dense spreadsheet and registers a biological threat. It detects the risk of impending frustration, the possibility of looking foolish, or the quiet fear of failing at a complex task. You aren't avoiding the physical act of typing or researching. You are actively fleeing the negative emotions that the work produces. To break the cycle of delay, we have to drop the scheduling hacks. If you want to stop procrastinating, you have to stop fighting the clock and start fighting the hidden emotional battle in your biology. Inside your head, two factions are at war. On one side, you have the ancient comfort-seeking limbic system. On the other, the logical, forward-thinking prefrontal cortex. When a task feels bad, the limbic system easily overpowers your logical brain. It demands what psychologists call short-term mood repair, an immediate hit of dopamine from scrolling social media or washing the dishes to soothe your anxiety. You get a quick hit of relief, but it's a trap. Delaying the work immediately triggers a secondary wave of stress and shame. Now you feel worse than before, making the task even harder to start. You cannot negotiate with this hardwired biological loop. You have to bypass it, and to do that, you need specific neurological circuit breakers. The first tool is a behavioral trick to bypass the brain's hesitation, widely popularized by author Mel Robbins as the 5-second rule. When you realize you need to start working, you silently count backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Neurologically, this acts as a pattern interrupt. It shifts your brain's energy away from the emotional limbic system and forces the logical prefrontal cortex to engage. As soon as you hit 1, you physically move. You stand up, you open the laptop, you grab the pen. You override your body before the brain has a chance to flood your mind with excuses. This proves a foundational rule of human momentum. Action does not follow motivation. Physical action generates motivation. Even if you sit down, a big project can still paralyze you. That's because the human brain naturally fixates on the absolute most daunting, complex aspect of the job, triggering immediate emotional overwhelm. To bypass this friction, lower the barrier to entry. Commit to doing only 3 tiny sequential steps, or tell yourself you are only allowed to work for 10 minutes. This engages the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological phenomenon where our brains become hyper-fixated on unfinished open loops. By completing just one tiny microtask, like typing a single sentence, you open a mental loop. You artificially trick your brain into feeling uncomfortable until the rest of the job is finished. You create sustained momentum by strategically shrinking the starting line down so small that it requires absolutely zero emotional effort to cross. The final circuit breaker is highly counterintuitive. Based on research by Dr. Fusha Saroy, it relies on one specific tactic: radical self-compassion. After wasting an afternoon, your inner critic gets loud. But beating yourself up over a delayed project actually spikes the exact negative emotions, stress, fear, and inadequacy that trigger your avoidance in the first place. The scientific fix is to let it go. Actively forgiving yourself for yesterday's wasted time is the only proven way to clear your emotional slate and ensure that work happens today. Shame is the primary engine of procrastination. Tactical self-compassion is how you cut its fuel line. When you sit back down at your desk, the experience changes. The sound of the ticking clock settles into a steady metronome for deep focus. You realize you are no longer fighting a personal character flaw. You are skillfully managing your own biology. You recognize the emotional trap when it appears. You possess the circuit breakers to interrupt your old habits, and you control your neurological response. Mastering procrastination is ultimately the art of mastering your own emotional resilience. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe. Then go down to the comments and declare the one task you've been putting off. Count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go do it right now.